exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost coming on the heels of hot breaking news. So let's see here. Hold on, almost here. And we're up, man. We are live. Chicago Landlord Secrets. Tim, I'm excited. We're doing this on a Tuesday versus Thursday, Friday. I appreciate you accommodating my out-of-town schedule. I'm going to NoahCon in Cincinnati with my daughter, so I'm not able to do our normal routine. So I appreciate that.
I just assume you're doing fireworks somewhere for the 4th, but that works too.
Well, I conveniently am driving through Indiana, so I'm very excited about that. But again, if anything, us getting online here today is the benefit is it's right on the heels of everything that went down at City Hall yesterday. I don't know if you want to share what you want to share. I actually was able to jump on with Mike Glasser this morning as well too, and hear how things went from his perspective.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing is, and again, all of this means nothing. I still have not seen, they're not publishing anything in terms of the actual wording of the laws yet that I've seen, but they are pushing, the mayor's pushing very hard with his PRO plan, protecting renters ordinance. And they've created a section of the website on the chicago.gov site that's all about it. They had this huge press conference yesterday. And so he's really, him and I think Byron Lopez, the alderman in Pilsen, are really putting all their marbles in to this plan to, in my opinion, try to get reelected and try to get some votes. But it's going to be interesting because with that much force and that much news now, it scares me a little bit because as city council, if the entire focus is on the renters and how poor the renters are being treated, and you start voting no for things like this, it gets a little bit tricky if the media is only covering it one way. So it's going to be interesting to see if MBOA and stuff like that can get some media coverage to sort of bat it. But what did Glazer say?
Well, I did hear that exact thing, that this is maybe a push to get votes for the upcoming elections. I know I was informed that some of the council or some of the aldermen were upset the way this came into city. It went right through the housing department, didn't go it was announced right. It was proposed right directly from the mayor to the housing department, which MBOA did report that there's at least one landlord friendly person on that housing committee. But he said overall the turnout was huge and the pushback was huge, and the point coming across of the conversation that was happening inside of the city chambers yesterday was, in fact, this bill has is named saying that it's going to help tenants when in doubt. There's very little that this is going to actually help tenants in the long run. And this is just, so a lot of that conversation came up yesterday. Now, like you said, your point, the only stuff I really saw, maybe it's just my feed, but is a lot of people. And it seemed to be, there's a lot of people coming out of Pilsen saying these things as well, too, in that kind of near southwest side. And I understand there's a lot of redevelopment there, and this is probably timely for that as well, too. But yeah, no, I guess if anything, the investor or the landlord side of things was very well received yesterday.
I think we're going to make those meetings, and I think that the MBOA is strong, and there's a couple other associations. I know Chicago Association of Realtors are going to be strong at a lot of these. The problem becomes, and this is a weird, I don't know, it's weird that this is how politics work nowadays, but it is will the media pick it up, right? Because these aldermen have constituents that they're going to go to, and majority of the time, the problem is they don't actually vote the way the majority wants. They vote the way that's the loudest, right? So if they're constantly just hearing from renters and hearing on the news that this is the savior for the city and no one's researching it or whatever, and they don't want to look bad, and they think that there's more people that are going to vote for this than against it, they might end up changing their mind and voting to pass something that is, like you said. And I saw someone posted this on Facebook, the whole breakdown. You know, if your rent's $1,000 now, you're going to have to take the 5 months it's going to take to get you out. So that's $5,000 divided by 12. Add that to each month. Add the registration fee. Add, the different things that they're not going to be able to bill for now. And all of a sudden, $1,000 rent is going to be $1,600, $1,700 across Chicago. and we're already in an affordability crisis, and it's going to make it 10 times worse.
God, it's such a misconception of politicians making it look like they're looking out for their constituents. And we're seeing this stuff happen in New York and LA and all that stuff where it's like, man, this is, and the shame of it is it's happening. You know, I'm not going to say it's happening here, but you're seeing some corruption happen in other places. But the problem, like you said, when media catches it, or media, whoever's picking it up and making that message. And the one thing I've taken away from this so far is it doesn't matter how stupid this sounds, because you know your gut feeling is like, this is so stupid, why would they ever pass that? You can't take on that concept, or you can't take on that mindset, because it will pass if you as an investor are not you know, signing the petitions and maybe going to the city council meetings like people were yesterday, voicing your opinion, whether it be on social media or on different media outlets, anytime you get the opinion. But you just have to stand up because we have to be heard as investors. And it just sucks that energy has to be wasted in this effort. You know, you could, any of these owners or landlords that are spending time, you know, going down to City Hall yesterday, you know, just call it 3-4 hours round trip. That could have been doing something more productive for the building or, you know, personally. But they're having to fight this fight that it's a shame, but you just have to fight it.
And I feel like as a landlord, right, we get attacked because you own a few properties, I own a few properties. We're not these large corporations, like, and I'm going to compare it to other industries, right? You have State Farm and Allstate and these billion-dollar corporations that are banding together to make sure things don't go their way. Same thing with mortgage companies, right? There's 5 or 6. You got Chase, you got Rocket Mortgage, now it's buying everything up. You got these big companies. Majority of landlords, and yes, there is a problem that we have seen from, you know, major private money and trust funds and stuff like that, where they have billions of dollars and they're buying up some, but that's not what this is solving, because those are people that can withhold this storm and buy more property during it. But they're really going after the landlords because the landlords aren't big enough to fight back the way that these other companies are. But can you imagine if some of these laws, and they would probably help people, can you imagine if your insurance, if they wanted to drop you, they had to pay you 7 months of insurance, or had to they couldn't raise your insurance rate next year, like if they went after stuff like that, or your mortgage company, you know, same thing, like your mortgage company couldn't do any, like, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, no, that is crazy. And then the funny thing is, they make the big institutions the bad guy, but there's not even many institution, I mean, comparably to other cities in the city. Right. And it's mostly because it's already so difficult to do business here. There's so many hoops to jump through and so many risks to hedge that they can't make the numbers work, or the inventory is so old. So that being said, the big bad landlord, the really big bad landlord that maybe even the media could make seem scary, they don't even really exist. It is all just random mom and pop, owner occupied, just trying to get ahead. And yeah, it's crazy. So anything else we talk about here on this before we move on?
The only other thing I want to add to it, because this wasn't mentioned, this hasn't been explicitly said, but that lady, I don't know if you saw the if you were watching if anyone's watched the press conference, and but I was watching the clip of it. The lady that was going through, like, these are the pillars of each thing.
Yes, I did see that on Facebook.
One of the things she sort of slipped in there that I haven't officially heard yet before until she slipped it in there, but I think we were both kind of worried about it, was that the new Bureau of renting buildings, or whatever it's going to be, is going to be in charge of inspections. So that scares me. That part, I think that and the obviously just eviction is probably the biggest thing that will affect landlords in the long run. But the second one is going to be the city who can't handle doing inspections for 3% of renters that have CHA in a timely manner. I imagine this is what CHA, I don't know if you saw this lawsuit came across a couple months ago. CHA is getting sued because they couldn't get their shit together fast enough to get this lady rehoused. And she was being abused by her ex-boyfriend. He knew where she was. He was stalking her. She was trying to move, and it took them 8 months, 10 months to be able to let her move and to get all the paperwork done and the inspection done. Imagine that situation across the entire city. I mean, things happen where you need to leave, and that's the one power you have as a tenant, right? Is if your building's falling apart, move. You have that ability. You can move. Imagine now if you have to wait 4 months for the city to inspect something before you can move, and your house is being infested with rats or has other issues and stuff. Again, this is all going to turn against and make it really bad for tenants.
Gosh, it's just, man, it makes my skin crawl to hear about how, and the skin crawling part only comes from the concept of we're both business owners. The ease of doing business is probably one of the most important things that we can do as business owners to keep our clients happy or keep our tenants happy, right? If you're difficult to deal business with, or every time they call Chicago style management up and they have to, it takes 6 days to get back to them, or every time someone calls up to inquire on one of your rentals and it takes them 4 days to do this, but then you're not showing it that often, like you would never have any business. But a city comes out with this, and then they just make it so difficult to do business, and they're gonna lose business from it. They're gonna lose investors. And there's no way in hell, like I'm telling you, I've said it before, take advantage of this as a business owner. Tax the units, collect that fee. You don't have to inspect it. Like, what's going to change right now? Like the housing stock, I mean, that's what 311 is for. That's what the health department's for. Like all those things are around already that exist. If something is happening, people have an option. But in the meantime, tax everyone $50 a unit per year and take that money and put it towards the other gap of somewhere else you have in the system.
I mean, we had it before. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think, and again, my only caveat would be Byron in his comment, like I said, brought up the fact that, landlords are these corporations, these entities from California or other countries are buying these buildings and trying to get them to be vacant. Tax the shit out of it. Like if you're not doing a major rehab where you're pulling permits, I think if you're just buying buildings as tax breaks and leaving them vacant, especially commercial buildings and the way the city's starting to look because of how many of these are not being rented out, I would tax the shit out of them.
And make sure CHA is included in that too with all their vacant units.
No, I agree. I think that's all fair. That's all fair game. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think we got a fight on our hands, and I hope that like I said, there's a lot of organizations doing some work, and if you're a landlord listening, this is where you need to be vocal, because there's, if every landlord owns a 2-flat, that means at least there's twice as many renters as landlords. So we really got to put that fight in and make sure that our voices are as loud as the renters can be.
I did hear a number that 60% of property owners are, what was it? Investors, and 40% are renters. So I don't know. I've heard those numbers a couple different ways. I'm not sure what
Chicago's 54 right now. The latest what's that thing they do every couple of years? The census. Chicago is 54% renters.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a very high renting area. But I mean, we have 4 or 5 colleges, right? Not to mention the colleges in the collar towns that people are living in the city and then traveling out to like Chicago State and stuff like that. So you got a lot of young people. You got a lot of people coming to Chicago for their first job and moving to Lakeview or Lincoln Park. And so there's all that. And then you have people that just, I mean, frankly, here's the thing, right? I was joking around with Adam earlier today on the phone, our friend from Domain Realty. We need to make the movie Life Without a Landlord, right? Like what's Chicago going to look like in 5 years if all the landlords pack up and they can't make money and they can't profit and it's not worth having? Because who's going to come and save all these people that can't buy a house because no mortgage company is going to let them buy? At what point, where do they all go? They're going to have to either go to the suburbs or, it's going to be, you're going to see a lot more houses just sort of sitting.
Risk has to be adjusted for. It's either going to come in the form of what you were talking about before, is rent goes up, or pricing goes down when you buy it. Like you might say right now people complain about taxes being high, and property taxes are high. But one of the reasons it's one of the more affordable cities is because property taxes are high. That's all accounted for. I imagine if taxes were just, say, for easy numbers, 50% less than what they are today, there would be a percentage increase on what the value is for all the homes. And this goes through the collar counties,
for sure.
Everything. So,
and guess what? The rent, most of the time that you see major rent increases, and some of that is I own a 2-flat or a 3-flat. It's been in my family for 40 years. All my money, the renters haven't really had an increase in a few years. All of a sudden taxes triple or quadruple like we've seen. I sell the building and the new person that buys it now is raising the rent and pushing me out. Like the taxes going up is what's hurting renters and why rent is so expensive. But put Kyra's comment back up there. We'll touch on it. So 50% renter market for Chicago shows a ton of potential. And Mark, I think you drive this home more than anyone. Like, Chicago has so many issues that it becomes an opportunity, right? Like we're in no other part of the country. I'll take like Inglewood, for instance. Are you going to find a property that's 80 grand or 100 grand and then rent it out for 16 or 1700? Like, it just doesn't exist, but that's all the risk being calculated into it and making it worth the investment. And, you know, it's a good investment if you can live through the trouble times and expand it out over 10 years. It's going to be good over time, but there's going to be some rough points because of the risk.
For sure. And, you know, I was working before I jumped on here on some articles, and a lot of the articles I've been writing lately for our blog and it is around, this is a good time. Like, this is the opportunities here. And if you're local or you have the right local resources, like, there's such a great opportunity to buy here. And because I think as we're going through this housing crisis here, it's only going to be tougher and tougher as an investor to find a deal that actually makes sense for the numbers. So all those things benefit us. But all right, moving on, man. More breaking news. You're a Southwest side guy, and the Bears could be coming to McCook. I just had to throw that out there and hear what your opinion is on that.
It's never going to happen. Like, I've seen like 4 or 5 of these articles now, McCook being one of them, and I would love it. But first of all, traffic would be terrible. Like, it would take, and I don't know if you're familiar with that area at all, where they're trying to put it. It's a small winding road. That's a 1-lane road, and it's a steep curve. Like, first of all, I'm not saying that I've had any experience going to the bar out there and trying to drive down that, but I can't imagine 40,000 people drinking and trying to make that curve. So there's a lot of issues there. But also, I've seen those. I've seen a bunch of reports, because I don't know if you saw when Illinois didn't pass the legislation about the Bears or letting the Bears have what they want. They made a rule that said, hey, a village can propose whatever they want as long as they're paying for it. So now you have 3 or 4 of these villages proposing things, but they haven't talked to the Bears. The Bears have no interest. I don't think Chicago even has a chance anymore. Like, I don't think there's anywhere, because of the laws, you can't build on the lakefront. You can't do a lot of things. There's nowhere that the Bears are going to go in Chicago. So it's Arlington or Hammond at this point. I still think it might end up being Arlington. Like, I'd give it 60% odds that they stay in Illinois, but definitely not in Chicago anymore.
The conversation came up this week too, down there in the Southworks, down there in your neighborhood, the Bush. Like that. I can't believe that didn't come up before. I mean, if you talk about traffic and getting in and out of somewhere, like that would be a mess for that whole area.
Yeah. I mean, last I heard, though, they're doing environmental tests in Hammond right now. So it sounds like if Illinois can't figure out something to let them build in Arlington, they're probably going to go to Hammond. But they have some time still, because all these tests have to be done, and they don't know if the land's stable or if there's nuclear stuff there or what's going to happen. So there's some weird things going there, but we'll see. I think what 10 out of the 32 teams don't play in their city, and like 4 or 5 don't play in the state that they're supposed to be in. So it wouldn't be that uncommon.
So you have more breaking news here this week. The governor signed finally signed a bunch of things that we've talked about here in the past. I looked through everything he signed, and the only one I saw that had any relevance is the one that comes out January 1st, HB 34, whatever. What's it called? House Bill.
Yeah, housing. You caught me off guard there, but yeah, no, it's the one that has all the ban on junk fees. So it's the junk fee ban bill. It's gonna. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but I think the biggest one is going to be not being able to charge tenants for maintenance that they didn't do or they didn't cause, and also application fees are going to be limited to $50 a month or not a month, $50 an application, without jumping through a bunch of hoops that are probably never going to happen. So I think that's going to be the biggest one is, if you're a landlord and you're paying $60 or $70 right now for an application, you got to figure out a way to get that price down, or you're going to be eating some money there.
Yeah, definitely. It's not horrible, the bill, if that's what we got to deal with. Like, I'll think, and maybe we're stuck in this. It's not horrible compared to moments where you got stuff like Brandon Johnson's rolling out, or some of the stuff. And the Fed's one isn't that bad as well too. But the point that
Fed one I think overall is good. I mean, we talked about it last week, right? I think the Fed one is overall good for landlords. The state one is probably neutral and fair. At the end of the day, it's more about disclosure. It's more about disclosure. Yeah, it's more about disclosure than anything. It bans a couple things, but 90% of the bill is about disclosing it. This Chicago one, though, is 100% a tenant funded bill that is going to really hurt landlords if it went through.
Man, but in the end of the day, we'll go back into this. It just really hurt tenants. Landlords and investors will either everyone will leave and not do business, or that they'll find ways to work which will never benefit the tenant.
No, we've tried to have public housing where the city ran it before, and I think that the only thing good came out of that was Candyman, the movie. But beyond that, that was a terrible idea that there's tons of books. Like the fact that there is like entire section of the library that documents all the negative and things that went wrong there. I don't think we want our city going back to that.
Nice. We've talked about this before on the episode. We'll move away from this new legislation, but we've talked about basements flooding on the south side of Chicago, and we've talked about backflow protector or backflow guards on the sewer pipe to stop water from creating a one-way channel where water could leave your building, but it can't come into it. We're actually installing a few of these this week, just off after some of these rainfalls we've had. Have you been messing around with any of those? And how has flooding been for your properties there? I guess it's pretty limited to us as a south or southwest side problem. I'm not sure how it works for you guys.
Yeah, we actually haven't had too bad. We have one property that's got a little flooding that we're dealing with. More so, the flooding has been due to, like, this week's been okay. Last week or so, but 2 weeks ago when we had all those storms, a lot of it was power went out, sump pump doesn't turn on, which is actually, we didn't mention this when we had our list of things that you should do. If you are in an area, especially the suburbs, the city doesn't have this as much, but if you're in an area like the suburbs that you have sump pumps, a battery backup is a $300, $400 investment that can be the difference between your house flooding and not during a storm. I think that is something that we actually missed last week when we made the list.
I think even a step further, especially if you have a finished basement, that battery backup, but a second backup pump. So again, you're only adding a few $100s more on it. But so between what you mentioned for the backup battery and then having a secondary pump to get switched to if the first one goes out, man, you're talking $600 or $700 for a hell of a lot of peace of mind and a heck of a lot of, here's the thing. Yes, insurance might probably cover something like that, but at the end of the day, it's a hassle, man. I just had a pipe burst in my basement, no fault of my own, just some corrosion. If anything, it was the fault of the builder. But man, it was just a pain in the butt. It was a claim. It was, the risk of mold. I stressed out my family. I had to come home from work. Like those things they never happen timely. You know what I mean? And now, luckily, we didn't really lose any personal belongings, but had that leak been 4 feet to the right, it would have been in a different room and it would have got rid of everything. We might not have heard of it. So having those type of backup systems are huge around sump pumps, especially for people in the suburbs. And a lot of people don't realize this as well too. And, out here in the burbs, you got a lot of crawl spaces, that's you're not on a slab, you don't have a basement, but you have this weird 3 foot tall gap between the gravel underneath you and your floor joists. And those tend to take water, and that there's, whether you have a barrier or you have some sort of way to keeping that water out, that's super valuable as well.
No, for sure. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it on the water stuff. Hopefully these storms are done. Now we have extreme heat. I'll throw this reminder out because Chicago goes, we can't get when you were a kid, I'm remembering my childhood. I feel like we had spring and fall. Like, is it just me, or like we had like a gradual, and maybe because I was younger and I remember it differently, but like we would have a few days in the 60s, a few days in the 70s, then a few days in the 80s. Your body got used to it, and then it would hit 90 by like August. This weather pattern is just, the last few years has been crazy. So we went from extreme storms the last 3 weeks. Now we have extreme heat. I want to bring up, I should actually look up what the actual name of the law is, but Chicago a couple of years ago passed a air conditioning law, just like we have in 2022. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of it, but just like in the winter, if your heat goes out, it's an emergency and the city can be called if it's not fixed right away. Above 80 degrees heat index, which means the feels like temperature, once it gets above 80, your AC is treated the same way in Chicago now since 2022. So a reminder for landlords, if the ACs go out, you can't just say, you know what, they'll be fine. You have to, if it's a bigger building, you have to supply, create a cooling center if the AC is out for the whole building. And if not, you have to, if your AC goes out, you better run over there with temporary window units or get a guy out there to fix it, especially this week during this, feels like 106, 107, I think today is supposed to be the high. I think it's only to get to 95, but yeah.
You don't see it that often, but how does that law, there's still probably 10,000 units that don't have AC at all in the city, and the tenants might be responsible for bringing their own window units. How's that law follow there? Is it just kind of like a carve out?
So it's a carve out. And basically what it carves out is, do you have any tenants that are elderly or any tenants that are children? So if you have anything like that, you're going to be part of it. And then anyone that has over 100 units, a dwelling of 100 units, is required to install AC. So there are some carve outs. If you're just renting to a 26-year-old or whatever, they're responsible for their own. You're okay. But I mean, realistically, right? I think that's the other thing. There's the law, and then there's the human side of it, and then there's the business side of it. The human side is obvious, right? Like, don't treat people like crap and there. But the business side of that, right, is if a tenant goes without AC for a week, especially like a week like this, what's the odds of them renewing? And every time a tenant leaves and doesn't renew, your profit margin gets reset to, if you can't keep a tenant for 2 years, your profit margin, in my opinion, is going to be close to zero. You might be up a couple bucks or down a couple bucks, but if you're doing a turn every year, you're never going to make money in this industry. You got to get those tenants that stay 3 to 4 or 5 years, and then your cash flow becomes something that's actually sustainable.
Yeah, our friend Ray Hespin from Property Meld, if anyone is listening, follow him on LinkedIn. He always has tremendous maintenance data, and it usually ties back to customer satisfaction and renewal rates. And it's very true, especially if for us, we have properties in some really nice areas where you just don't get maintenance ever. Like, you might have a work order every 2 years. And if that work order is the only way that they know how to judge if you're a good or a bad landlord, after you take their money quietly every single month, and they pay it every single month, that is the one time that you have to actually impress them and make them feel like, all right, what I pay for and the service I pay for is worth it. So yeah, the human side is huge. I've always treated AC similar to heat, mostly because I've tied it back to my personal life. If my AC is out, man, my family is groggy and cranky. Should we stay at a hotel? And maybe they're a little more, we're a little more uppity in that sense, but we like it cold. Our house stays 62 degrees all year round. 62, 63. And if it goes above 65, like, people are like, what's going on? Is something broken? Like, so,
yeah.
But I would think about it from that perspective of your tenant, you're adding a whole bunch of stress on a family. They come home, they had a long day, and it's 92 degrees in their apartment. Like, that's bad. So we've always treated it as more of a emergency, high risk thing for multiple reasons. One, the human element, and then also the renewal rate and customer satisfaction. So I'm happy you broke that down there, because it's so true. So we're a couple days into this heat And I don't know if it's the heat or the humidity that's worse, but we're a couple days into this. How's like you're getting a lot of calls, or you're getting? I feel like it's 3 or 4 days into it. That's where everything starts breaking.
Yeah, I think we're not at the peak where things are going to break, but also we're lucky enough this is towards the end of June, and we had that. If everyone remembers, we had that like May, the beginning of May, where it got into summer, randomly, where we're in the 80s. So I think a lot of people that had broken ACs called in and got it. We got it fixed before this heat wave. So we had a month to prepare. Like, people were turning on their AC for the last month, I think. So now this is just, all right, can you keep up with another 10 degrees? But generally speaking, the ACs have been serviced, and we should be okay, knock on wood, in terms of that.
Yeah, we push AC spring cleaning more than ever this year. So I'm curious, and we did it based on previous years of doing it and seeing that the ones that we did had almost zero maintenance that had for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Not sure if it's a coincidence or just a good practice that maybe, but we did expand it by we did about 30% more units this year. So I'm curious to see. We won't know at the end of the season, but I do feel, you have a heat wave, maybe it makes it through. You have another heat wave, maybe it makes it through, but maybe you get 2-3 of these big heat waves into the year. That's where it's like that unit starts breaking. And the issue that we're seeing is now, if you're replacing the AC and you got a super old furnace, they're not compatible all the time right now, or vice versa. We had to replace a furnace in March, but coming up, the AC wasn't going to work with it anymore, just based on the how compatible they are. So
you got
that's another thing we're seeing.
Yeah, you got that. And then you also have, if your AC is leaking, you're going to call an HVAC guy. They're going to give you a quote to put in Freon if it's older than 10 years old. And I think we are now at a point where that is becoming not like. First of all, the leak's never going to be like, once there's a hole in it, there's a hole in it. Like, you can sort of patch it, but it's going to keep coming back. And Freon, man, I think we're at like $250 a pound, $350 a pound now.
Yeah.
It's getting out of control. So, I mean, just spend the $2,000. Like, the odds are, first of all, your AC is close to, if you're still on that Freon, your AC is close to end of life anyways. Don't spend $600, $800 on Freon. Just replace the AC condenser. Get it done. Get everything new. And then you got it for another 10 to 12 years without any issues.
Well, it's such a valuable, if you're going to put 2 pounds of Freon plus a service charge, you're at $400 to $600. And if you put that towards something new, like that's, I don't know, you're just buying time. You're only using that to buy time, which in translation is really just additional interest or costs on your overall expense. So
yeah, yep, absolutely.
All right, man. Anything else before we wrap?
Real quick, I want to touch base. I had this a client that I'm talking to, and he came up with this issue, and I'm curious. I don't know if it's really a known thing, because it doesn't come up too often, but I always want to mention it. But foreign entities in Illinois, you can buy a property in Illinois with an LLC. Because if you watch YouTube gurus, right, you got to have a Wyoming or a Delaware LLC. You can buy the property in Illinois with that LLC. But if you're renting it out or running a business through it, right, you need to register that entity with Illinois. So we just had a client that we're helping fix his issue, fix it and get him registered in Illinois. But if you don't do that and your LLC is registered in a different state, and you don't register as a foreign entity in Illinois to conduct business, and you go to evict a tenant, and they hire an attorney that actually just does a search and realizes you're not, that case is getting thrown out, because you legally can't file anything in court or do anything, and you legally couldn't have that contract. So just a quick reminder for everyone out there, if you have an LLC that's not Illinois based, that you need to make sure it's registered with Illinois to do business.
Love it. I love that tip to wrap it up. Well, Tim, thank you very much. Listeners, if you have any property management questions, reach out to Tim, reach out to myself. You can find us on the different socials. You can Google and probably find both of our cell phones pretty easy. If anyone's around tonight, I will be speaking at the WSBOA, John Warren's networking group there, West Suburban Building Owner Association at Salerno's between 6:30 and 9. I'm actually going to go over all the, I'm going to put my real estate investor hat on and break down everything I've done in the last 30 months. I volunteered. He asked me what topic you want to do. I volunteered in this because it forced me to go back and review everything I did, good or bad. So I'm going to break that all down for everyone here tonight. So anyone in the area, Salerno's got great food. John's always got a great group of people there, and we'll see you hopefully.
Everyone have a I was gonna say, everyone have a good 4th of July weekend. Hopefully it's extended for you, and don't blow off your fingers. That's the last advice we'll leave you with.
Exactly. All right, guys, everyone, thank you. And we will see you next week. Thanks, Tim.